Once upon a time, two young men decided to get together to pick apart movies and TV, anime and books for the greater good of understanding story structure. May I present to you the Story Boys.
Hey, hello, welcome to the next episode of Story Boys with myself, Jake, and my co-host, Sly. You can find this podcast on basically Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Breaker, and nowhere else, because I refuse to put it anywhere else. Those are the three, and that's it. And that's all for where our podcasts are. How's Sly doing today?
Oh, Sly is doing really good today. You know, he woke up this morning, made himself some coffee, and was like, I get to talk about a show today with Jake on a podcast, so that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. We get to specifically talk about an anime show today. We were talking about this just after, like, everything involving, Midnight Mass was our previous episode, and Sly's like, do you want to talk about anime? And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. So we're talking about anime today. And that anime in particular, if you haven't already noticed by the background, if you're watching this on my YouTube, or if you haven't noticed by the title that I put it in the podcast, it is known as Akame ga Kill, which is a very interesting anime that I would say rivals Game of Thrones.
Really?
Really. As far as pacing and stuff.
That's actually, because Game of Thrones is like, what, the U.S.'s number one television show? I know in the U.S. that doesn't apply to you, but I know it has like an insane fan base.
Mm-hmm. Until season 8, and then it just goes, woo, downhill.
Yeah, the writers left for Star Wars and then left that for a Netflix series.
Yeah, no, they got fired from that because it was shown that they couldn't have respect and care to George R. R. Martin stuff. So when they tried to burn him, George R. R. Martin burned them back, and then they got fired by Disney to do something else. That's what happened.
Perfect.
That's awesome. So that's it's like
perfect
karma. So yeah, today we're talking about Akame ga Kill, and it is a wonderful anime that we will be spoiling from this point on in the podcast for the next however long this podcast is. So if you haven't watched it yet, it's on Netflix. There is one season of it. It is different to the manga, because the manga is completely different in a lot of story arcs. So we are just talking about the show. We know nothing of the manga. I read a little bit of it, and I was like, oh, that's way different. So I stopped because I was like, this is much more interesting. But at the same time, the show also is very good. So yeah. So, in your experience with anime, what kind of anime do you typically watch, would you say?
Anime I typically watch, anime that is just basically off the top engaging. I don't watch series that are too long. I know that there are things like Dragon Ball and Naruto, but those are in a huge investment of your time. You have to spend countless hours catching up, watching all these countless spin-offs, movies, stuff like that. I like something that gets to the point, isn't that long, and is entertaining from start to beginning. And funnily enough, Akame ga Kill was actually the first anime I ever watched.
That's very interesting. I did not know that.
It's what got me into the genre. Before this, I watched a couple of, because there were occasional Saturday mornings Dragon Ball Z episodes would play, but they were reruns. I didn't know what was happening. I just had it on. Wasn't really watching it. Yeah. But yeah, Akame ga Kill really was the thing that got me into anime.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because this is a very good, also a very formulaic anime. But I don't say that in a bad way. It's something where it's got a little bit of everything, but it's interesting as the premise goes. And it's set in kind of like a high fantasy / there's some technology, but not really. It's more like swords and magic, which is cool. Yeah, and it's not there's not bullshit where it's like Frieza's still charging his power level, he's gonna attack, that kind of shit. It's not saying anything bad about Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball in itself is good, but the filler is it's not great. This is something that doesn't overstay its welcome. It gets to the point very quickly, and it's something where it's here is your clear good and bad, but also here's gray area of the good and bad, which I found ridiculously interesting. It's very compelling as far as a narrative plot point for what's going on. And I'm basically playing the series from the midway point when shit goes down, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So this is an interesting fantasy story. The story starts with a young swordsman named Tatsumi who's got lovely brown hair, and if you're watching this on my YouTube, the waveform will be coming out of his head where I'm talking. Sly's like, oh, who'd you put me over? You'll find out.
Oh God.
No, it's good. It's good. It's fine. So Tatsumi is a swordsman from a northern kingdom. Him and his two of his friends, who I don't remember because they're utterly forgettable, and I hate that they're utterly forgettable because they're huge in his character development. By the way, we're going into spoiler territory because we're gonna be talking about everything, like everything. Oh, yeah. So just so you know, our spoiler hats are on. So Tatsumi wants to make his fortune in the grand capital. He wants to go to the big city. He wants to make the big bucks, to make all the money and bring it back to, his his hometown. Like, oh man, we're gonna do that. And his two other friends, yeah, we're gonna do that. And his two friends kind of set off, without him, and he's there. He shows his swordsmanship skills by immediately killing what this universe calls danger beasts. So if you're a fan of D&D at all, like, it's a very D&D centric kind of setting. Like, there's lots of Dungeons and Dragons. There's lots of that kind of high fantasy stuff going on. There's lots of sword fighting. You ever played the game Dragon's Dogma?
I haven't actually.
Okay, that's a game you should play. So, it takes a lot of, imagery from, high fantasy. Like, if you watched Fairy Tail or heard about Fairy Tail, it's got kind of the same design as far as characters go, which is interesting, but they're unique to their own thing. Like, that's just kind of a, if you wanted to kind of, see something there. So Tatsumi shows up. He goes to the capital. He immediately gets set upon by and this is where the series is kind of like, hey, it's actually a harem anime as well. he immediately gets set upon by Leon, one of his soon-to-be compatriots, and he kind of gets wrapped up in this huge thing where he becomes this unlikely assassin with the titular cast of Night Raid, known as the Revolution Army. So yeah, that's kind of how the story starts. Sly, what are your first impressions of Tatsumi and his journey when it first came through?
Yeah, so it's very clear off the bat that this is a fish out of water story. Like, you have this young, naive, arrogant swordsman who came from this village who views the capital as this grand, very exciting place. But then he finds out very, very quickly that it's not that. It's actually very corrupt, dangerous, full of monsters that aren't really monsters, that are just worse than monsters, that are humans essentially with the heart of monsters. Mm-hmm. And so then he's just riled up. He's quickly tangled up in these unraveling sequence of events that are out of his control, and before he knows, he's part of an assassination group. But yeah, first impressions of Tatsumi, I really like him. There's a lot of room from development off the bat because, like I said earlier, he's kind of clueless, but yeah, he's very likable, pretty charming, and obviously has a good heart and wants to do right.
Yeah, he's a plucky young hero, but he also kind of subverts that plucky young hero trope as well because he has principle, which is interesting. So one of the main things that happens, pardon me, with Tatsumi early on is when he runs into the Night Raid characters and whatever. Basically, what happens is they're hired to kill this family that he's staying with that kind of took him off the street because he got fleeced by Leon, the girl that he ends up, working with later. So what happens is the Night Raid people are like, yeah, no, we're going after these people because they torture and capture random people. Look, and then they open the shed of torture, and then hey, look, there's Tatsumi's two friends who were missing, who have been tortured by this crazy lady. And you turn, Tatsumi kind of looks at this young dowager, I think her name, or whatever her name is, who starts spouting about, how can this girl have such smooth skin and beautiful hair than me? That's ridiculous. Of course I'm going to scratch her and stab her and do all these horrible things. And the series kind of takes this really dark tone right away. Super dark. Yeah. It's no longer about this adventure and high fantasy. It's no, people are fucked, and these people are absolutely fucked. So what was surprising in their interaction is Akame, the titular samurai schoolgirl, who basically her design is lifted from Kill la Kill and all that shit. Everything about her. She's got a little sailor suit and all that stuff. It's hilarious. She's a super cool character. But she's yeah, if you're going to get in my way, I'm going to kill you, dude. This is my contract. I have to kill her. Tatsumi's no, I got it. And he turns around and just decapitates the girl that killed his friends. I was oh, shit. Even rewatching this, where we can talk about this, I was shit, dude. That's nuts. He fucking just killed her like for nothing. And I was like, well, it's not for nothing. He straight up had principles. And then the assassination guild known as Night Raid, who are like, it's like they're the scouts for the Revolutionary Army. They're like, well, we can't let you leave. You kind of have to come with us now because we'll kill you. Like, so they just kind of take him, and then he starts meeting the cast. So that's kind of how the story starts. And Sly, did you want to continue by talking about some of the characters that we meet in this? Like maybe we go through the characters and then go overall like story arc.
Oh yeah, sure. Because this series does have a very colorful cast of characters. In episode 2, primarily like the first half is just introducing you to all of them. So yeah, we can go by them like one by one. But at least the characters have been introduced to off the bat. Yeah.
So we'll talk about Night Raid. So we know Tatsumi, who is like the swordsman, the plucky swordsman. His 2 friends are now dead. Akame, the titular character that's in the title. She is the long black-haired samurai girl who's kind of a ninja, but not really, but like an expert swordsman. She like just is like super strong. She's one of the go-to assassins. We're also introduced to Shelly or Sheely or whatever how you pronounce her name. She's got the big scissors, pink hair. The boss Najenda, who has an eye patch and a metal arm. Lubbock, who has these gloves that emit string stuff. Bulat, who is the spearman, and I think we're also introduced to Mine at this point in time, and Leon, who stole money from him. So those are the cast that we kind of get to know immediately, like right away, right? So basically, with that cast there, like we have all of these characters. So like we'll go through them kind of like one by one. So let's start with Akame being like kind of like the samurai character. What with her, like what are some of the things that like jump out to you when you think about Akame, like the samurai girl, Sly?
Yeah, like when she's first introduced, she like you get the impression like, okay, yeah, we get how this is gonna go. She's gonna be like the typical edgy, serious, like no play, like you get in my way type character, like like those type of characters.
Yeah, tsundere.
Like the
tsundere type characters.
Yeah, but then it actually turns out no, she's just a regular person. She cares for all of her friends, isn't scared to show that she cares for all of her friends. Has a very, very strange obsession with just meat, which is more than often played off for laughs.
Yeah.
I like the subversion because like her, like exterior wise, she's that typical badass silent type assassin, but underneath all that, she's a very warm, soft, just like very typical character, and I like it.
Yeah, she's very like interesting because in one of the first missions Tatsumi goes on, he fights basically this guy called the Ogre, who is like a corrupt military general, and he beats him like in a one-on-one fight. Like at first it looks like Tatsumi's gonna lose, but it's like no, he's actually really, really good at being a swordsman, and he beats him like not effortlessly, but kind of like. Like with a little bit of effort, he kills him, right? It's his first completed assassination contract, so he beats him. And like, and like, he goes back, he's like, yeah, not even a scratch on me. And Akame's like, okay, strip, dude. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So they strip him down to his briefs, and she like inspects him like all over his body. And then she has this look of relief after. She's like, oh, good, you weren't poisoned or anything, and there actually was no scratch. That's awesome. So she goes from being this kind of cold, like, I'm an assassin person to, you can actually do it, you're capable, cool, we're friends. And she's like super like, yeah, okay, you're on board kind of thing. And like it's this weird, they have this kind of like weird relationship where they're like, nah, like we're gonna do the job we gotta do and we gotta free the world. And Tatsumi immediately goes, yeah, I have no misgivings about killing corrupt people. Like fuck that, there shouldn't be corrupt people. He immediately sides with them, almost like he has opportunity to not be part of Night Raid, but at the same time he's like, no, they're actually warm, friendly people. Even Leon, who like stole his money, she's like, yeah, I kind of spent it on booze, but like I'll pay you back, my bad. That kind of thing. So who else do we have in the group that's first introduced? There is Mine, who she uses like a weird, and this is where the technology gets weird, she uses a gun. So she has like this fucking thing called Pumpkin, which is her gun. We'll get into more what they are in a minute. But like she uses a gun. She's like the sniper of the squad. She is your typical, I would say arrogant, like angry person. Like she's technically his senior. So she's like, no, fuck you. But she's like a young, precocious young girl who's like, no, I'm better than you and you have to prove your worth. And she comes off super hot. and like angry to him all the time. And then you got stupid moments where like he walks in on her changing into clothes and like dumb stupid anime tropes like that. But she's like just this angry person who like she's just effective. But that's because most of her backstory was she was like abandoned at the wayside. You know what I mean? And so she had to like fight for survival constantly until she was found by the Revolutionary Army and then given her weapon and all that stuff.
Yeah, she was of mixed blood, and like she faced a lot of heavy discrimination in the capital.
Yep. So she has like this hardened heart of like I don't want to deal with it. Who else? Lubbock is your standard pervy fucking green haired guy that's in any anime ever. He's like I'm gonna go spy on the girls in the bath, and that's kind of what he is. But he's like their tech guy. Like he just kind of like knows about traps. He's plans things. Like he's smart.
Yeah.
He's clever.
He's very interesting because at first when you introduce him, you think he's going to be like that obnoxious character, like that one kid in My Hero with that like weird.
Oh yeah, that dude. Yeah.
Like you think he's going to be that type of character, but then as the series gradually progresses, like he is obnoxious at first, but then as things go along, you're like, oh wow, no, he's actually a cool guy. Cool.
Yeah, like he's a dirtbag, but he also like he doesn't try to play it off like no, I'm not a bad guy. He's like no, I work with hot chicks. I kind of want to, like, what's going on? And the hot chicks go, yeah, because they know he's harmless. They're like, yeah, you're just a perv, whatever, dude. And they just like, yeah, okay, fuck off, cook meat. So, like, he's like, it's weird, like, but it's also, like, they're all kind of, like, military buddies, like, you know what I mean? There's none of this, like, they're all just, like, they feel like this extended family, if that's a good word to put it. I think it is. It's pretty apt. Who else do we have? We got in the OG cast Bulat, who is like he's got the Josuke like punker hair, like the big pompadour and shit, and he has like a suit of armor he can summon to the battle. What is it? He shows up in the first episode. He says, "Hey," he gives Tatsumi a warm welcome, and like straight up Akame is like, "Yeah, he's gay." Like right away, the first like he's gay, and Tatsumi's like, "Oh, he might like me," but then it's like, no, he actually just cares about you as a person. Like, yeah, he's gay, but they don't really like hammer that in. Like, there's moments where like him and Tatsumi are doing training. He's like, "No, yeah, your muscles gotta get definition like this," and Tatsumi like is like, "No, you would know. You're a huge muscular dude. Like, you're just trying to help me." That kind of thing. So it's very interesting to see like how Bulat is as a character, and he was once a general actually in the Imperial Army until he was like, nah, fuck this, we're killing innocent people, I'm out, and he just left, he dipped. So like a lot of the people would like left for like reasons, as in like, no, I'm done, I don't want to be fighting in this like stupid war for nothing where we're just killing people.
Yeah, easily. Like, because he probably has now that I look back on it, he probably has the least amount of lines of, like, the initial cast, but his presence there is still just as much as everyone else's. Like, he's a very memorable character.
Yeah.
I feel like.
The design alone is very interesting with Bulat as well, too. Like, they gave him this, like, this Japanese, like, punker look with the pompadour and everything. Like, he combs it up and shit. But he's also very, like, like, this, he's just very memorable in a way that, like, the characters they have don't feel wasted. Like, they feel like they have a logical beginning, end, and conclusion to what their arcs, you know?
Yeah.
What else? Shelly, with the glasses and the scissors. She's just, like, your all-around, like, soft-hearted, soft-spoken sweetheart person who's just nice. There's not really much more. Like, she's a capable killer. She's good at killing. But she's just nice. Like, she's the nice one. She's very soft-hearted and nice. and there's that.
She's just clumsy and innocent, but
she's just
not
nice.
really when it comes to battle.
Yeah, she's just nice. And then Najenda, who is their leader, who is basically Big Boss because she has robot arm and missing eye. She's like 28 or some shit. I don't know. Like, they're all really young. It's weird. So basically, Najenda's their leader. She goes back to the Revolutionary Army to like deliver weapons and like tech and all this other shit, as well as like give them like tactical advice, expertise, that kind of thing, etc., etc. And that's essentially it, right? So those are the good guys for now. And what happens as the story progresses is some shit happens to the good guys. Good guys start fucking dying.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to fucking kill off good guys like immediately. Like what is it? Like I think Sheely was the first one to go because she saved mine in a fight, and it was fucked up. She lost to arguably my favorite character in the whole series. Yeah. I love that character a lot. We'll go into it in a second. But they're not afraid to kill their characters. They murder them like immediately, and it's nuts. And I think the big strength of this is they go, okay, here's all the good guys. Then they kill a couple. Like Bulat is like one of the second ones that go, right? Because they're fighting against this general. So there's this general, this blue-haired general called Estef, who's a psychopath. Like she is like the strongest that they've ever been. She's nuts. She's absolutely like incredibly strong. She's crazy. She's absolutely crazy. But she also lived in a time where like her father raised her as if you're not strong, you're weak. You must be strong. There is nothing else. So they do that. And she's this crazy just nut bar. She's insane. I'm just watching that one episode. It's the thing where she kidnaps what's his face. It's great. Anyway, so she's crazy. She's the strongest. Even Nagenda has gone on record to be like, yeah, Death is fucking nuts. So we start to see this development where you start to see mirror matches happen. So like for a Tatsumi, there is a Wave. For, a Mine, there is a Bowls. For a Akame, there is a her sister, whatever her name is. I fucking can't remember. I have it on the list here. Yeah. Shiome or Kome or whatever. Fuck, I have a list here. I'm pulling it up. You talk while I pull it up, Fly.
Okay. Yeah, just off of that last point, like Jake said, this show, it doesn't fall for like a standard anime tropes where like the main characters are here for a while and they survive most of the battles. No, it's like anyone can die at any time, and it has you on edge for whenever everyone's in danger. There's very few things where you're genuinely scared when someone gets in a fight because you're like, oh, well, deaths aren't that frequent, but yeah, really anyone can bite the bullet at any time. They even tell you directly in the show through the characters, so yeah.
Yeah, they go, yeah, these characters are dead. Like, Sheely basically gives her life to save mine because reasons. So, these are the people in the Jaeger squad, which I'm watching for the point they get introduced to. They're kind of like the mirror match of the Night Raid squad. So Jaeger squad is a squad that's made by Estef, who has like the strongest warriors she could possibly find to fight for the Imperial capital. They work in a way that Night Raid works. Night Raid is essentially the assassins that take down these targets, trying to weaken the capital's grip on the people, and the Jaeger squad is there to stop the assassins at every turn. So their captain leader, Esteth, the blue-haired crazy person, Kurome, who is Akame's sister, Wave, who is basically Tatsumi, but blue-skinned, like he's blue-skinned Smash Tatsumi, which, by the way, your waveform is coming out of Wave's face in my video, FYI, if you watch this on YouTube. I thought that'd be very apt. There's Run, who is a blonde dude who seems to be like an advisor role. There's Dr. Stylish, who's a crazy... He's basically a Waffen as...
I love Dr. Stylish.
He's the best. He's crazy. He's nuts, but he's like this weird Waffen SS, crazy experimenter dude who like does weird shit. There's Bowls, who is arguably the heart of the team. He's my favorite in that respect because he's so soft-spoken, but he burns people alive. With his weapon of choice is a flamethrower. And they go, oh, Bowls, you're so nice. He's like, I'm not. I burn people alive for a living. Like, I straight up murder people by burning them and incinerating them. I'm not a nice person. And, like, Wave is like, oh, well, like, I mean, if you need to talk, and then Bowls' adorable, beautiful daughter and wife show up and give him packed lunch, and he's super sweet with them, and it's like, aw. But then it's like, no, he burns people, though. Like, he burns them alive. Yeah. And he defends himself by going, it's literally my job. Like, this is the job that I do. I burn people alive.
It's one of those gray areas you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Like, it's like, yeah, but he has like, agency and character agency and stuff. Just like, no, I burn people alive, though. And it's like, you want to like him, but he burns people alive. And it's like, oh, shit. And there's Dr. Stylish. And then my all-time favorite character, like, who I think this might have surprised you when I said it, is Seryu Ubiquitous, who is this psychopath, crazy girl that is justice at any cost, even to the point of, I have replaced most of my bodily limbs with atomic weapons and guns, and I have a dog that can turn into a giant like Chewbacca monster that eat people, and I will do justice no matter what. And justice to her is murdering killers and murderers and everything like that. It's nuts. She's crazy. She's like this sweet little girl, and then until she goes into fight mode where she goes into this crazy like demon child. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's so genius because there's a perfect representation of like, what the system will, because like there's a lot of people, because this dates back to like BC, like this has been a thing with humanity forever, but like you'll have this very corrupt government or organization, and the people who live in the places controlled by said organizations or government won't see anything wrong with it because that's just the way of life. And so like to them, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to defend my way of life, and she grew up with this wicked idea of justice being engraved into her, and yeah, that basically created a monster, and it's so fascinating.
Yeah, and like they're all characters in their own right, and they all have power levels, quote unquote. It's interesting how they do that and they showcase that. So like basically how this anime differs from like standard power battle animes and battle animes, because it's kind of shonen-y in a way where it like goes, here's matchup fights and here's battle. This guy has this power. This guy has this power. So how this works in this anime, which is interesting, is they took the idea of Dungeons and Dragons and magical weapons, and they're like, nah, fuck it. The Emperor way back when hired all these brilliant craftsmen and geniuses to take the Danger Beast material, these giant dragons and these giant monsters, cut them down like in Monster Hunter, and turn their bodily parts into weapons known as Imperial arms. And I think they said there was like 42 or something like that, as many, like double the calendar year of many like arms that there are, and there's still some that are undiscovered. And they're these like crazy, unstoppable weapons. So for example, Tatsumi starts off with a normal sword. He trains with Bulat for like most of the series. Bulat then gives him Incurgio, which is a summonable armor that has powers like, hey, your trump card is you can go complete stealth mode. Like you can turn invisible, no one can see you. But it gives you like defense, and it gives you like basically, it heightens your abilities. Any of your normal swordsman skills, when you summon Incurgio, this evolving armor, it binds to your body and you become that much stronger based on that, which is an example of it. Mine, she has Pumpkin, which the more, like, she doesn't have necessarily a secondary function as far as a trump card, but the more danger she's in, the stronger her gun gets, which leads to some cataclysmic fucking events in the anime. Like, holy shit. Who else do we have? What are some other ones you remember?
Well, we have Lubbock's Wires. If there was a name given to it, I must have missed it. But yeah, honestly, it might be probably my favorite from a stylistic choice because there's so much he can do with it. Because like basically, we first see him like setting traps with it, but he can like manipulate the wires to form actual spears and all this cool shit. He uses it to listen out for enemies nearby.
Yeah,
it serves multiple functions, and yeah, that's why I took an immediate liking to it.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's reflected in his character design. Like he looks almost like Arachnid in a way with the whole goggles and stuff. Like he looks kind of like a spider. Like their first scene in the very first appearance of Night Raid, they're standing on wires, and people are like, "What the fuck are they standing on?" And it's Lubbock's wires because that's their way of traversal, right? Like, hey, we have like advantages and stuff, and Lubbock has this thing where he's super smart and intelligent and creative with them. Who is it? Fucking Leone has a champion belt that basically turns her into a cat girl, where she turns into a lion, but she gets like increased regeneration and she gets like augmented strength. Akame has a sword that kills in one hit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the name was like Masamune.
Yeah, Masamune, yeah. Like it is based off of Masamune. Her sword will kill you no matter what. Even if she pokes you with a little bit and it touches your skin, you get a poison in you, you're dead. That's it. It spreads through your body and kills you. And there's definitely no way you can survive it at all. It's nuts. So they all have like different like abilities and stuff. Like one of the other people, so like they lose people. They lose Bulat. They lose Shili. They have people die. They get replaced with two more, Susanoo and Chelsea. Which Susanoo is an example of a living Imperial Arms. So he is an Imperial Arms with a soul. He can basically like he's unstoppable in a fight. But like his quirk is he's a neat freak. So they have him be like this crazy, neat freak thing, and he's the guy with the devil horns and like the blue hair. And he's kind of like a mimic to Seiryu has like that little dog thing she carries is its own Imperial arms. It's like this big, it can turn into this big crazy thing that eats people because it goes off of her master's, commands, and it can go into like super whatever mode. It's nuts.
Which, by the way, that dog has like such a cute design, but it's fucking terrifying. Like in battle, it is scary.
Even when the dog like transforms, I still think it's adorable because it's this giant normal thing, and it works with Seiryu. Like Seiryu has these metal arms and legs, so she'll go like whatever it's called. She'll go I think it's Call or whatever. She'll go form 6, and then like the thing will bite on her arm and like spin around and turn her arm into a drill, and then she'll use her big dumb drill arm to attack people. So it's this weird synergy of like her having like Seiryu has a gun implanted in her throat that she uses to shoot people with. It's messed up. She's the craziest character as far as design standpoint goes. It's the best though. Like it's nuts. Chelsea, who joins Night Raid, she has like this makeup kit that can turn her into anything. Like anything. So her whole assassination thing is like she basically just sneaks up behind you and stabs you in the neck, and that's it. and she just, her thing is like, I'm actually an assassin. Like I make over myself and I hide in plain sight and then I get them in the neck. It's nuts. So because the good guys have Imperial arms and like Night Raid has all these things, of course the Jaegers have Imperial arms, right? So Bulls has the incinerator one that's like a big flamethrower. Wave has the opposite to Tatsumi's. Wave has like the updated version of Incurgio. Yeah, Grand Chariot, which essentially is like it's based off of another beast. So it's like this weird mirror match where they both have similar powers.
Yeah, and the show doesn't hide it at all.
No.
Like the show tells you like it shows you blatantly, like these guys are equal in power level.
Yeah, they're exactly equal. And like even with Tatsumi, like he like there's a point where he's captured by the team S-Death. So again, owing to the harem plotline, S-Death holds a tournament because she wants to find someone to love, because she grows, her loins feel something, and she wants to have a boy in her life. And S-Death is a crazy person, so she has this tournament. Tatsumi beats up this guy in a tournament and then smiles, and she goes, I love him, immediately. I love him, I must have him, and she kidnaps him. So he basically spends time with the Jaegers and starts to see, oh shit, they're just like us. They have the same kind of quirks we do. Oh, they have the same kind of, problems we do and all that other stuff. Like there's an interaction, and I'm watching it on my TV in the background here, where Wave and Tatsumi kind of talk, and Wave's like, no, I just feel like you have like this sort of treatment where like you're the fish out of water in this thing, and I know exactly what you mean. And Tatsumi's like, I don't want to talk about it. And they kind of have this weird bonding moment where they're like, yeah, we're both the normal guy with a bunch of weirdos. It's the funniest
they're both
shit.
the straight man, and like everyone else bounces off of them, kind of.
Yeah, and it's great. So it's super funny, and it's just weird because like they write the characters so well to the point of like, they're just fantastic when they fight. Like even like to the point of like Tatsumi doesn't necessarily want to have to kill people, but he understands he must do what needs to be done. And I think that brings us to the whole theme of loss and burden that happens in this anime, like from start to finish. There's themes of loss and there's themes of burden, which is like, burdening yourself with the right choices you can make.
Yeah, like for example, Tatsumi like goes to multiple points in the story, but he just flat out isn't able to save like the people close to him, like the people he care about.
Yep.
And that gets to him, and like he naturally wants to go stronger, but it always seems like no matter how strong he gets, he can never quite be strong enough. Mm-hmm. I always thought that was interesting. Yeah,
and it's done very well, where he recognizes even if I'm working hard, I'm not getting the same results, right? And he still did, not to say he doesn't work hard, he does, but it's like he recognizes, I need to do better, I need to be better, I need to get stronger with this. I need to progress. And he's fighting for like, we need to free ourselves. Like we have to stop being corrupt. Right. And it's one of those things where like, we have to protect people, but then other themes of like, no, there's duty. I have to follow my duty. Like, the same thing with Wave. He was a naval officer and he's like, no, this is my duty. I have to protect people. And like, they don't see what's going on in the capital, and they don't see the corruption that's happening in the capital until it starts to like bubble to the surface through the turmoil, right? Where the capital, there's something wrong with it. You know what I mean? And like even the first like face off between Incurgio and Grand Chariot, where Wave has no idea that Tatsumi's an Imperial arms user is the best. It's such a stupid Kamen Rider-esque fight, but it's great. Like, even Rider kicks at him. Like, Wave jumps through the air and does a Rider kick. It's the best. Like, it's so stupid, but it's amazing. Would you say that the bad guys of the show are just as well written as the good guys?
Honestly, 100% yes. Like, you'll have a couple of people in the Jaeger who, like, are pretty one-note and are just there to be entertaining, such as Dr. Stylish and Run, who, doesn't really have much to do throughout. But other characters, oh, yeah. Like, for example, your favorite, Seiru.
Yeah, Seiru, yeah.
And, yeah, Wave, Bulls, all of them have, like, something driving them forward, like some sort of depth to them. Like, even Killer May, like, her end game is just to kill Akame. That's literally it.
Yep.
And yeah, it's like you really do get attached to both teams. It's so weird the way they do it, because the Jaegers are comprised of like messed up individuals who've done horrible things, and I couldn't help but love them.
Exactly.
Throughout the series, I actually love them almost as much as Night Raid. It was great.
It's they did a very good job of doing mirror matches in the show where they write a character and make them incredibly well done. Like, even the confrontation between Wave and Tatsumi, like when Tatsumi goes to escape from them, from the Jaegers, like, straight up, like, Wave is like, don't you get it? Like, just killing people at random, what does that accomplish? Like, that doesn't protect people. And he goes, no, you idiot. Like, you don't understand why we're killing them. We're killing them to show, like, the reason that they're being killed is because they're corrupt. They're corrupt officials that are hurting people, right? And like, we're trying to make it so people cannot, like, because it comes from the minister, whose name is Honest, who essentially like is super corrupt. He makes the young kid emperor do whatever he wants. And the young kid emperor, did I do a good job, Minister Honest? He goes, oh yes, of course, as he feeds his face of meat and gravy, like, as people are having taxes levied on them and they're fucking dying because they can't pay for their food, and like, people are just horrible, and it's like nuts. And they have there's this huge scrutiny of like, no, you can't kill people indiscriminately, and it's like, you're protecting the wrong people. Like, if your goal is to protect the people, these people in, the higher ups need to be stopped. They need to be like removed of power. So a big huge thing is like the independence of, and it's very very interesting to see them talk about the whole like corruption in an office in politics, which is interesting that this show just kind of spells it out, that there are bad people doing bad things. And it's kind of like, it teaches you to be critical of your government. Like, maybe don't go kill people. However, you should be critical of the people in power. Like why are they doing this? Why are they the way that they are, right?
Oh yeah. And like I said, I really do like the Jaegers, because they are essentially the people who are either completely oblivious to said corruption, or just don't mind it and just accept it as like the natural way of things, and see the Revolutionary Army and all those associated with it, such as Night Raid, as just commonplace criminals just trying to upset the balance of power. And yeah, I really love that dynamic.
Exactly, and it's something that like, it kind of like keeps going like forward about it. Even like Dr. Stylish, who when he attacks them, he finds their hideout and attacks them, and they have to escape. Right, that's when you get Chelsea and Susanoo introduced to them, and it's like, okay, we have to do better stuff. You start to like learn about the motives for, okay, this is why we're fighting. Like, Chelsea shows up as one of the newer assassins, and she's super critical of everyone. She goes, you need to turn your heart off to these things. Because if you have a hardened heart, you assassinate better. Like, you can't care about others. You have to do what needs to be done, right? And then there's like other people that just keep fucking up the way things are. Like, they keep messing up like things. Like, so Dr. Stylish made all those like half human, half danger beast monsters and had them locked away. And then Minister Honest's kid fucking frees them because he's bored. Like, just to cause turmoil and discourse, and it's horrible. And it's one of those things where it's like, holy shit. And it's like, and then you see these officials that are like, oh, I love the wine that all the commoners are paying with their taxes. Look how much money we have. and it's like horrible, you know, and it's just like every single person is corrupt. There is no non-corrupt official, which is kind of depressing at the same point, but it kind of shows that this has been going on for like years and years and years. It's not necessarily, you know, something that has been like just tomorrow they started being corrupt. No, this has been like absolute power corrupting absolutely, you know?
Yeah. Like, there's no, because it really does drive home the fact that, like, there's literally, like, you can't do it politically. Like, they even reference in the show how, like, there have been people who've tried to, like, fight against the Imperial capital the right way by opposing different politics. But, you know, that went nowhere. It's, like, literally the only way to change things is just to actually resort to violence and kill officials and take them out of power. Like, that's literally, like, the only way you can create a better future, to just destroy the capital from the inside.
Exactly, and they tried to do it, and it's interesting, and it's funny you mentioned that because one of the characters of the Jaegers, Wave, like, so it's not really touched on in the anime, which is unfortunate. The anime hits a lot of beats, but a lot of stuff changes. In the manga, Wave is a resulting person who he was a teacher. Not Wave, sorry. Run. Run is the person I mean. Run is a person who was a teacher. So Run with the feathers and the hair and all that stuff. He taught young children. Run did a very good job in teaching them, like, a lot of stuff, etc. A horrible serial murderer did horrible, unspeakable things that would get this podcast. I mean, we're already, like, rated mature, but he did horrible things to children that may have rhymed with grape. You know, and he did, really bad things, this guy. And Run found out, and Run murdered this dude. So Run noticed that he was part of, like, he was being protected by people in the capital. Instead of indiscriminately killing random people, Run decided to join up with Death's Jaeger squad to try and change the corruption from within. So he still had his principled thought of, like, I need to change this, but I'm going to do it from within. Now, it's not touched on in the anime because this would be a longer than 24 episode anime at this point. Like, you know, it's kind of a very short one sweet walkthrough, and it changes kind of when people die and how they die and what happens. So we'll get into more of that in a second, but like it's interesting to see the reasons for fighting, right? Like Kurome and Akame, for instance. Kurome's whole thing was they were part of an assassination squad, right? That the Imperial army funded. This assassination squad, they all had their own swords. They were trained in horrible things. Kurome and Akame were sisters. And then Akame goes, yeah, I can't keep fighting and killing people like this. This is dumb. If we're going to kill people, we should be killing the right people, not random civilians and people that are trying to, you know, do what they got to do. So when she leaves, Kurome gets very upset. Now, Kurome's sword can capture the souls of people she kills. So her whole point is, I'm going to kill you so I can have you and summon you whenever I want with my sword. And Akame does not like that. So they have this duel where, like, they fight to the death at one point. And, like, it's just sister versus sister. And it's interesting because Wave shows up, and because Wave loves Kurome, which is really weird. Because they have these, it's like, you have this thing with Tatsumi and Akame where they're kind of a thing, but not really. And then, like Tatsumi gets all the girls, which is the funniest shit. Like, that, to me, it's like, it's so funny.
Everyone fell for him.
Every girl falls for him with the exception of Magenta, who fell for Lubbock. But, like, it's one of those things where, like, you know, first it's like Sheely, and then Sheely dies. And then it's Chelsea, and then Chelsea dies. And then it's Mine, and then Mine dies. They're not scared to kill these people. Like, they straight up kill them. Like, every time, like, they develop their character, right? So the difference between the show and the manga is, canonically, Tatsumi and Mine become a thing, and they have a kid. So that's canon.
Oh.
That's canon that happens in the manga. What happened, and then, so, we're getting to the end of the anime, essentially. So, basically what happens is, like, in the climactic showdown, Tatsumi's armor has been shown to evolve as he fights. Like, when he first summons Incurgio, like, it's a little bit stronger, but it's not ridiculously strong. When he gets stronger with it, he can summon its spear, like how Bulat used it. And like, the armor gains more plate body on it. Like, Bulat never had, like, the full plate shoulders. He only had the chest. Tatsumi has the shoulders and the chest and, like, legs and stuff. So, like, the armor gets stronger with Tatsumi's fighting spirit. In the final battle, when the King Emperor basically pilots a Gundam to blow everything up, Tatsumi... Yeah.
That was so fucking ridiculous, even for Akame got killed. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just to see this kid emperor in this giant mech suit, like in like what had to be like was reminiscing medieval times,
Yeah.
just fucking blowing shit up.
Yeah,
It was
and
so
like
disgusting.
the whole time he's doing it, he's like, "Am I doing the right thing, Minister Honest?" And Mr. Honest is like stuffing his face with gravy, like, "Oh yeah, you got this, don't worry." And it's like you're killing fucking innocent people. So Tatsumi, who's losing his mind at this point, evolves Incurgio again, and it grows wings, and he becomes this dragon knight, this dragoon. And I'm like, that's the tightest shit ever. Like, and it was super cool. So what happens? This is where it kind of diverts versus the manga versus the show. Is the manga has an ongoing series after the fact where Akame is trying to cure Tatsumi. Tatsumi in the show dies. He doesn't canonically die in the manga. He turns into a dragon because what happens is the dangerous beast that inhabits the armor takes over his complete mental will, and he just turns into a dragon and flies away. So Akame in the manga goes on an adventure to save him and try and find a way to turn him back into a human.
Oh,
So that's what happened because Mine is in a coma and pregnant with Tatsumi's child.
I need to read the manga one day. Like,
So-
that sounds very interesting.
If anything, this show has proven to us we probably should read the manga because the manga sounds very interesting because they do a whole bunch of different stuff. The show is still very good for what it is, though. Like it's not necessarily what happens canonly to the characters, but the characters stay with you enough that it's interesting to see what exactly they happen. And like the action and the way it's animated is not horrible. Like I've seen a lot of like animes that are very, it's a one beat note and it's the same kind of reused animations. This is something where like not all the animations like super reused. It looks fresh. It looks new. Like they're not necessarily like making the same like things over and over and over or the same stills over and over and over. Like a primary example of this is if you were to watch Cowboy Bebop, it's animated very well, but there's a lot of stuff that's reused for assets. Like when Spike does like his Jeet Kune Do on someone or whatever. This is like constantly, here's a new thing. Like they do recycle some, but it's like, here's a new part of the animation. Here's something new for it. Here's a new thing with this, right? And it's very interesting to see it. Like everything that's happening is new. Like there's not necessarily a reused scene or asset. Like they do when they do flashbacks, sure, but it's good that way.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with like the quality of the show's animation and just like the way everything's presented. And if they were to have like covered a lot more stuff from the manga, that would have likely not been the case because they would have had to stretch their resources more. So yeah, I'm definitely fine with having like a 24 episodic series that just gets straight to the point and hits all the major beats of the manga.
Yeah, and like there's some things that are changed. So for instance, Kurome also does not die in the end. Her and Wave run away together and they go live peacefully somewhere. So it's something where like you kind of see, them go do a good thing. Like Kurome and Wave go live together peacefully, right?
That just makes the show that much more depressing.
So the show's so depressing because everyone dies, and they just kind of like Leon dies. Fucking everyone except for like Nagenda and I think Akame die out of the original cast. Like even Susanoo. Susanoo's got this thing where Nagenda can activate her life force to make him turn into like a stronger. Basically, what's the term? He can turn into like I don't know. He turns into like an astral demigod thing where he becomes ridiculously OP and strong. But Nagenda can only do this 3 times because on the 3rd time she's dead. Like she gives a third of her life to him for it. Even like Seryu's death was really depressing too. Like when her and Mine are having this climactic fight, Seryu basically like activates a nuke in her stomach and goes in her brain and then she kind of has this realization of like, wait, is this actually justice? What am I doing? I don't want to die this way. And it's like, guess what, dummy? Like, you reap what you sow.
Yeah. Oh god, don't even like, dude. Bowls.
Bowls is sad as shit. Holy fuck. Okay, so Chelsea's Bowls, Mr. Flamethrower guy who he lives and dies by the incineration, and he's always been very open, like I burn people alive for a living. That's what I do. He essentially gets killed by Chelsea in a dust up after they fight Bowls. Kurome, Wave gets blown away. So what happens essentially is Bowls gets stabbed by Chelsea in the back of the neck, and he's basically dying. And he starts crawling towards a vision of his family, Like, he's like, no, I have to live for them. And it's like, oh, fuck, dude. So, like, you feel for him, even though he just recently broke his Imperial arms and set off a nuke to essentially, like, save his comrades and, like, destroy people. You know what I mean? But he's like, and he's still like, no, I need to get to my family. But he's not apologetic for the actions he's done. Like, he has already, like, gone, no, I literally kill people. And this is even after a thing where, like, hey, Akame, why did you join the Revolutionary Army? Like, you could have came with us. Like, you're very good at what you do. And she says to him, she goes, no, I'd never wanted to indiscriminately kill people, because when the bodies start piling up, that's wrong. You know what I mean? She's like, I can't do that. Like, my heart told me that these guys are right. I cannot fight alongside you guys anymore. Right? And it's interesting.
I really love how it's not entirely black and white, because it would have been so easy to just like make all the Jaegers just crazy individuals and say, yeah, bad people. But no, Wave, Run, even Seiyu to an extent.
Seiyu was the worst, because not the worst as in like bad. She was a very misguided young woman, which was unfortunate. Because she was, like, raised by the system, as you said, that were like, no, this is fine. You're doing the right thing. And because, think of it, like, Ogre was her sensei, like, her master who taught her how to fight, how to be effective as, like, you know, a guard, dies. Dr. Stylish repairs her, gave her the procedure to make her have guns and all this stuff, dies. So she's losing the people that she looked up to and loved. Yeah, her father. Like, she's losing the people that basically she looked up to and loved, where essentially, like, she's like, oh, fuck, like, I can't even fucking, like, you know, I can't even, like, it only makes her want to fight for the Imperial Army more, because she keeps losing the people she loved. Maybe, and, like, you know, she's like, no, fuck that's not justice. And then when she activates the bomb in her head to, like, take out mine and kill her, she goes, wait, what the fuck am I doing? This isn't justice. I'm dying for nothing, right? It's crazy. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely chaotic. Like, and there's a lot of shit that's just really fucked up too. Just with the whole, like, respect of human life, and like how I'm just watching the scene where Najenda fights. So Kurome's sword can summon things she's killed. It's a general that Najenda used to love, right? Or have feelings for. And she takes off his head, meaning to kill him. But the Imperial Arm Souls thing, like Kurome's sword, I can't remember what it's called. It basically, like, it basically keeps them as they are, and they will keep moving like these gross puppets forever. They're not really living, they're just dead puppets. And it's like, it's horrible.
It's so messed up.
Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, basically, like, everything to do with these characters and how they work are just so interesting. So in the final fight, Tatsumi in the anime, he basically beats the king, and like the emperor, the child emperor, and the way he goes out is probably the best, because like he's up in the air flying in his dragoon armor now, and he sees the child emperor's fucking Gundam falling to the ground, and he sees a bunch of innocent civilians. He's like, oh fuck, I gotta save them. So he basically sacrifices the rest of his body to stop the thing from falling on people, and dies. At which Akame gets super fucking depressed over, because she's like, you said you wouldn't die. Like, the show is very depressing near the end of it. Like, you know, you said you wouldn't die. Like, why did you do that? Like, you know, that kind of thing. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, I couldn't, I had to. Right? Just depressing. The most depressing.
Yeah, like during the later episodes, people really just start dropping like flies, like Jaeger, Night Raid, everyone.
Yep, Jaeger and Night Raid and everyone in between. And it's like, it's not. Minister Honest gets, I think, the best death, which is just Leon beating him to paste, which is awesome. Definitely the best. But like, he shoots her in the gut when her belt's broken, and I'm like, oh fuck, she's not coming out of this alive, is she? And like, she was the one where like, oh, but she's still standing. She's okay. She's talking to Akame, but then she's like, hey, I'm never going to see you again, Akame. It was nice working with you. I'm like, oh, fuck. And then she goes to a bar where everyone's like, yeah, they've been overthrown. We're free again. We can make money. And they're like, hey, Leon, come sit. And she's like, nah. And she dies alone in a fucking alleyway. Like, oh, my heart. I was just dying. I was like, oh, fuck.
I just had a realization. Apart from, I guess, Stylish, I don't think there was a single Night Raid or Jaeger death that wasn't sad in some capacity.
They were all, even Stylish's was kind of sad too, in a little bit. Like, yeah, he was an egomaniac, but at the same time, like, his whole thing was, like, I mean, he turned into a big giant monster thing, but like, his whole thing was like, I need to surpass mortality. Like, if I can keep doing this, I can make a better quality of life for people. So it wasn't necessarily, I'm bad. Like, it wasn't as sad, I'll give you that, but it was something where it was like, his death was maybe not thematically sad. Like, it was sad for the fact of it had repercussions. Like, Seryu was basically fucked over after he died, you know? But
yeah,
I don't know.
I also like the fact that, like, if it wasn't for his ego, the show would have ended right there.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He found the hideout. He could have just easily reported back to base. Night Raid would have been dead.
They would have
But
done.
no, like, he had such a huge self-image of himself. He's like, oh, I can take these guys by myself.
Yeah.
I got this. And he just dies. It's great.
He
came close, though.
He came very close. But then, of course, with Susanoo and Chelsea showing up, like, that fucked him over. You know, but that was also, like, you know, they showed up at the right time kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Fucking everyone dies. Everyone dies. Everyone is horrible. It's never fun, never good, all bad, no good. Like, you know, it's rough when they die. Like, when Chelsea gets killed, they put her head on a pike, and Tatsumi sees it, and Incurgio, like, and he just breaks down. They keep
Shot is like one of my favorites.
That was a great shot. That was the best shot that I've seen in the show, where he just kind of discovers her and, like, has to keep his shit together because, like, if he's found out because he's on wanted posters, like, it's horrible. You know what I mean? When Mine sacrifices herself to rescue Tatsumi because he's up on the execution block. And because her thing overloads and basically kills her life essence, because, like, the second strongest general in the world, using his thunder power, goes to shoot at her, and she's like, oh, that puts me in a really dangerous position. And she blows him away like it's nothing. Like, you know, because it ramps the fucking power. It's insane. And then she dies, and Tatsumi's like, fuck. And then, like, it's to the point where Akame is, like, just breaking on the inside, and Tatsumi's like, hey, I will never die. I promise. And then he fucking dies.
Yeah.
You know? Then there's the go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
Okay, I was gonna say I also like how Chelsea's death was kind of like self-fulfilling, because she said herself, yeah, no, you can't get, like you said earlier, you can't get emotionally attached to your allies. That'll only make you weak. But then she falls for Tatsumi, and her falling for Tatsumi wants her to, you know, she wants him to think of her very highly. So she's like, I'm gonna go and kill both Bulls and Kirame by myself.
She couldn't have done it, and she couldn't.
Yeah,
and like, if she known that Kurome and Akame had that weird, they have ridiculously powerful strength beyond their limits, and she would have known not to attack Kurome, but she's like, no, I'm going to impress Tatsumi, so he'll appreciate me more. And then she fucking goes to kill Kurome and goes, oh, easy. But then Kurome's like, not dead yet, bitch, and just fucking kills her. Like, you know,
that was probably the most brutal death, I think, out of like everyone.
Oh yeah, I like how, like, when they started explaining how Imperial's arms work, Nagenda says, look, if two people with Imperial arms fight, someone will die, and sometimes death is mutual. And it's like, oh, true. Like,
yeah, she's basically talking to the audience at that point, like, yeah,
she's basically telling the audience, like, people will die in this anime. I'm giving you a warning right now. And, like, the second that Sheely died, I was like, oh shit. They don't usually kill characters like that. That's fucked up. And then the second Bulat died, I'm like, oh, fuck, that's like Kamina. Oh, shit. And I was like, I'm in for a ride now.
2 episodes away.
Yep, it was nuts. And he died because he was trying to protect Tatsumi. And, like, that's the thing. You try to protect someone else, that's what happens. You go down protecting other people. And it was kind of like this big, huge, you know... Oh, he looks like an Ashura, Susanoo's super form. That's what it was. That's the word I was thinking of. Anyway, so, like, it's like when you protect someone, you most certainly will die. Like, even Kurome, when she's fighting with, like, Akame for the final time, right? And how, like, Wave goes to interfere and stop them, and Tatsumi tackles him and goes, no, you dumbass, they have to do this. Let them fight. No one likes this outcome. I don't want to be here either, but I'm here to make sure they get their duel. You know, he's like, I'm willing to accept if Akame dies or not. Like, and it was just an interesting. It's just weird because it's just like a death slog through the whole anime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lots of death. But I mean, that's the title. Akame got kill. And then like the titles with the whole kill the establishment, kill the enemies, kill the like, you know, that was interesting for the naming convention, at least on Netflix. I found that very interesting.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're at the part where we rate the series. I think we've talked enough about it for the characterization, the interesting of it, the how she goes, the how it is. So, Sly, out of 11, because we like to go to 11 here at Story Boys, what number would you give this series out of 11? 11 being completely life-changing, 1 being not the best.
You know what, Jake? I was going to initially settle for a 10 because this anime, while really good, doesn't do anything completely out of the norm. You know, it's still by the basics, has a pretty good plot, though. It does put a few expectations, nothing like crazy. But I didn't come here, and neither did you, to be objective. We
Okay.
came here to talk about
anime.
Yeah.
Yep.
11 out of 11.
11 out of 11 for you personally. This is your first anime. That's fair. This is the thing that got you in anime. I agree with you to that point. For me, I have 2 scores for it. So when I first initially watched it, I would say it would be a 10 or 11. Right? Fantastic. Really well done. It's something that is interesting as far as the characterization, the design, the story. It makes me think about, you know, the establishment. It makes me think about what are you willing to fight for. It makes me think about like a lot of these weird feelings where like, oh man, that makes me legitimately sad when they killed this person, like they built them up to kill them. It was something where, was there a happy ending? Yes, but like there was a huge road to get to it. So
it's very bittersweet.
Yeah, it's very bittersweet. So yeah, 10 or 11 for sure. The second reason, there's a second score I have for it, is because when I found out the manga said, well, they're actually not dead, they're just in a coma and this is happening, that made me very upset that didn't get translated to screen. Because I would have loved to see the fucking character arc with, you know, knowing that, no, well, canonly though, like, Mine is in a coma, pregnant with Tatsumi's child, Tatsumi's a dragon, Lubbock is still dead, but at the same point, like, you know, yeah, Lubbock's death was raw. We didn't talk about it because it was kind of like one of those glossed over deaths, though. It was the same thing in the manga.
That's a cool way, though.
He did. He used his brains. Like, he just, you know, it was. I found his death was not as impactful as the other ones. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It was kind of a, okay, here we go moment. But anyway, like, so my score of it, like, knowing that the manga probably has more for me to encounter and I haven't completed it yet, I would say 8 out of 11. That's what I would give it as a score.
That is very fair because we didn't take the manga into account either. My rating might change if I read it.
Yeah, exactly, and we could probably revisit that maybe down the road when we go into the manga. I'm probably going to look it up and see if I can get it to read it. But yeah, that's kind of how my score goes. Much like how Bowles is crawling towards his family, I want to crawl to that happy ending that they might get. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's my score. 8 out of 11.
Did you know the actor's supposed to be getting a prequel series that just never came out?
See, now that fucks everything else up because like there's a prequel to this. That's cool. So that essentially would be like the what happened, why the minister got into power, and all that shit. And that would be more.
It was going to be called Akame Got Killed Zero. It was going to be featuring Akame as the main character.
Yeah.
When I last checked on it, it was being worked on in 2014, but I haven't heard anything about it since, so it may have been canceled.
I think it's something in which they probably were like, yeah, we can't really do too much with this. We have to, you know, we have to do whatever. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then like, there's so much to this, but yeah, final score would be like 8 out of 11, just because I want to know what the fuck's going on in the actual story and if there's something interesting further for me to look into. As far as anime goes, if you're a first-time anime watcher and you want to watch anime, I would put this beside Cowboy Bebop as just start with it and see if you like it. Because it gives you enough wacky shit and it gives you enough straight shit that's actually pretty good. The animation's not offensive, it's not horrible. It gives you just enough wacky, weird shit and just enough, like, you know, serious stuff at the same time. Is it kind of a harem anime? Yeah. But at the same time, it's not, like, overtly crazy in the fan service. Like, you get maybe, like, 1 or 2 shots that are fan servicey, but, like, they mean nothing. Like, it's more or less just, like, here's part of character development, but not really. So
Yeah, but
yeah.
real quick, Jake, I don't want to prolong the ending of this episode,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be a Akame Got Killed review slash podcast if we didn't say what our favorite Imperial Arms was. So
Oh,
I'll let you
okay.
go first.
All right.
What is your
My
Imperial Arm?
favorite Imperial arms is probably Susanoo, just because he turns into an Ashura. He's a person, and I could talk to him. Plus, did you see him build that house? That shit was amazing. I wish I had a Susanoo that could build me a house. Hey, man, go clear that forest and build me a log cabin.
You could live rent-free for the rest of your life.
Bro, absolutely. And, like, the cost of basically him protecting me, fuck yeah. He would clean everything and cook for me. Dude, my wife and I would be on Easy Street. Hands down, Susanoo. I would pick him, for sure. Favorite Imperial Arms. What about you?
My favorite, like I said, I gave it away earlier. It would be Lubbock's because I just love the multiple functions it serves. I love it from a stylistic standpoint. It just seems really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's the end of this episode of the podcast for Story Boys. Once again, you can find this podcast on Spotify, Breaker, and Google Podcasts. Our next episode, we'll be talking about a video game that we both liked and that I recently finished. So yeah, that's the end of that, and this is Jake signing off. Be sure to subscribe and check out the YouTube channels of Jake Brick Show, myself, and the Sly and Sonic fan Sly. Sly, do you have anything else to leave with our viewers today?
Last episode, I told you guys that if you're watching this on my channel and you didn't subscribe to Jake, you would be turned into a vampire. Well, now I am telling you, if you're watching this on my channel and you haven't subscribed to Jake yet, you will be slain by Esdeath and her crazy army. And yeah, I will see you guys next episode.
Yes, and I will add an addendum to that. If you're watching this on my channel, you're not subscribed to Sly, Esdeath will step on your cubes. So no, you should subscribe actually, if you don't, unless you like that. In which case, you do you, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy, folks.